Eyes, relax, invoke the presence and rest in the presence, holding space.
Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari.
Namaste.
Welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online satsang. Satsang simply means community of truth. It could be any gathering of two or more people who are on the spiritual path, sharing their journey together, sharing their presence and their space with one another. That's a satsang. Could just call it spiritual community. When we come together with others who are in the process of awakening, we're strengthened. Our inner peace is multiplied. Our light is multiplied. And it's an important piece of the spiritual journey. If you're on the path of awakening and the flowering of the heart, find other people that are involved in that same journey, that same experience. There's so many people awakening now on planet Earth. You can find them anywhere. And if you don't happen to have a blessing circle or a meditation group or a spiritual community you relate to, well, you can always join us on Monday nights, but also you could take the flowering heart blessing that we share in these satsangs, which you are initiated to share with others just by being here and soaking in this energy. The divine said, it's grace. It belongs to me, the divine. It is not the property of any spiritual tradition or religion or master or guru or avatar. The divine said, this is coming from me. So it's really free from the influence of being sort of drawn into perhaps another spiritual tradition than the one that you're comfortable with or the path you're on. It's also, it's a gift of grace. We don't pay for it, we don't earn it, and you're initiated the moment you receive the flowering heart blessing to be able to share it with others. What it does, it catalyzes awakening. In the process of awakening, it helps to melt blocks and resistance and sort of lubricate the journey, make it smoother and take you ever deeper, because awakening isn't a destination. It's an ongoing process of transformation as we're expanding into infinity, which is really big, I hear, actually. So we're sharing the flowering heart blessing with you right now and throughout this webcast, and you're welcome to join us as well in holding the intent and inviting the divine to pour through you the flowering heart blessing. That's all you need to do. The divine does all the rest. You can do this with anyone at a distance by holding the intention in your heart in prayer and meditation. You can do it in person, in your physical presence with someone. If you explain what it is you're doing and get their informed consent, you just lightly lay your hands on the top of their head, invite the divine presence to flow through you, and that's it. The divine does all the rest. And what's amazing is virtually everyone experiences the divine presence, which used to be a big deal. I mean, people would go for years seeking a direct experience of the divine presence and feel quite frustrated. No need for that anymore. And there are other forms of blessing. We know there's Shaktipat and Diksha and Ph.D. and Nuigong, and I could give you in several languages and traditions. There are many blessings that are widely available on planet Earth now because it's so critical that the human family awaken together, that we shift from the global insanity of a civilization rooted in competition, conflict, and violence, and begin to birth the new Earth, which is rooted in cooperation, harmony, and peace. A peace that comes quite spontaneously from the inside when we awaken to our true divine nature. When we awaken to our original essence, we discover that our true self, our divine self, is already divine and enlightened. What we've been looking for is us, and we find it inside. There are many things on the outside that can help us make that inner journey, but eventually we have to realize that whatever experiences, whatever we're seeing of the light shining on us through enlightened gurus or teachers or spiritual processes that we go through on the outside, the outer world is a mirror reflecting to us our true inner nature. And once we get that, we stop running to and fro from this initiation to that initiation, and we take the dive deep into the center of our being to discover we were the one we were looking for. It was there all the time. The flowering heart blessing will activate that connection and cause it to come alive. It is already alive, but your experience of it to just begin to blossom and radiate from the inside out through all the layers of your being. Spirit, soul, body, relationships, connections to the world, and we're never the same again. So, please, give and receive blessings. Now, if you come here from another group or community and you're rooted, very rooted in your own blessing that your group gives, if it comes from the divine source, if its purpose is the flowering of humanity into oneness, into divine union, feel free to share it. But everyone can share the flowering heart blessing because you're soaking in the initiatory grace right now. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, what we do is we open it to questions and answers, preferably about the spiritual journey. Perhaps you'd like some clarity about something you've been thinking about in terms of what is awakening, or what is divine union, or why am I experiencing this particular impediment in my spiritual practices, or it could be anything related to spirituality and the spiritual journey. And if we don't know the answer, we turn to the divine and we get inspired we go, where'd that come from? So we all are blessed when you share your questions. So please do. And then after a while, we're going to dive deeper into the blessings, and we're going to hold a strong intent for miracles of grace and divine intervention in your lives, in the lives of the people and the situations you've brought with you in your hearts tonight. And we'll conclude with the open eye light meditation at the end. But first, your questions. And a little message from John Lewis, who said, "If I offended anyone a couple of weeks ago, I apologize. It was not my intent. I was a little frustrated at the time." I can't imagine why anyone living in a human body on planet Earth at this time would be frustrated, John. I'm teasing, of course. I don't even remember what you said 2 weeks ago. Now I'm going to go look. I'm going to go back and look at the comments. But
we don't need to revisit.
No, we don't. Whatever that was, peace.
Peace.
It's all fine. We love you, and that's part of the thing. The whole world is family, and within families, we have to have a lot of patience and acceptance. I've noticed over the years, and spiritual communities are no different. So in a way, it's refreshing when people are real. If you're frustrated, you express your frustration. If you're sad, you express your sadness. I've been in spiritual communities where people are like, "I'm happy all the time because I'm in the light. Everything works wonderfully for me." And now, while that may be a peak experience that someone might experience for a while, a lot of times it seems inauthentic, because the human journey is, while it's wondrous and miraculous and filled with so much grace and transformation, it's tough too. And there are a lot of frustrations and sorrows along with it. And I hope you have none of that. But if you do, as our friend Michael Franti sings, nobody cries alone. We're one in this. So, just saying. You want to say anything about that?
Nope.
Well, we can wait a few minutes. I don't have anything planned, so.
It's because we leave lots of space for grace to come through you.
That's right. Well, actually, we plan on that.
Yeah.
So, don't all jump in at once now. Also, if you're here, are you here now? Okay. If you're here still, give us a like or a love.
Or even in the future, we check in during the week.
Oh yeah, because a lot of people, and in fact, more people tune in during the week after these than the people that are actually with us when we videotape these. Because people we have people joining us from different continents, from halfway around the world, all different time zones, different life responsibilities. So, but when you drop in, if you don't leave a comment in the chat, if you give us, if you're on Facebook, a like or a love, a heart or a thumbs up, then we can come back later and see your name that you dropped in to visit, and we send you special hugs and love. If you're watching it at Vimeo or LinkedIn, for instance, you would need to leave a comment. And I think YouTube as well. We're all over the place. Facebook's the easiest place to sort of drop in and leave a comment, although we monitor the comments at Vimeo as well. So just let us know you were here, because we love you guys. Moray says, I'm asking for blessings and healing because I'm feeling sick these days. Grateful. We will definitely be sending that. We have a lot of close friends that are dealing with various physical trials and not feeling well.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of different reasons for that. Our lives are different, but it's just, there's so much tension on planet Earth right now. I mean, if you were living in a cave on a mountaintop in Tibet,
without a TV or cell phone.
so you had no news, you didn't know what was going on anywhere in the world right now, you'd still feel the tension. I don't think you could help it, because the whole world is family. The human family is one. And with all the many challenges we face and things that are going on, how could we not feel it? So I'm just saying, but definitely we realize that, sometimes we just, and that's a good thing to do. When we're not feeling well, ask. Mm-hmm. And the Flowering Heart Blessing is also a potent tool of healing. We talk a lot about blessing for awakening, for opening the door to divine union, God realization. I think that is the heart of it. But here we are, we have souls, which are like, we've got a mind, we have emotions and emotional charges, and we have physical bodies. And so the divine presence is very in love with us. It's a puzzle. Sometimes it's hard to figure, but the divine loves us unconditionally. And how does a parent feel when their child is suffering emotionally? Well, you want to comfort them. You want to,
help them.
Obviously, yes. Yeah. And when your child is physically ill, you want them to be healed. The divine is no different. And so you can actually give yourself the blessing, which is kind of neat, because your hands are loaded. I know there are other kinds of therapy, like Qigong, healing, Nuigong Jiliao, using the yin and yang energy forces, and polarity therapy and things like that. There's a need usually for a connecting between the healer and the one that's being healed, because there's a certain balancing of energies, of yin and yang, of polarity working together. But what we found out years ago when we're talking about divine blessing, it's not working that way. It's not just using our personal chi or our personal prana. This energy is coming from something beyond the body. It's coming from the infinite space behind and between all things. And our hands, once we're initiated to give blessing, are specially graced by the presence. And so you literally can bless yourself, and it's amazing. Where's all this energy coming from? And you can focus on the need for healing in your body whatever it is, and just let the divine energy work on you. Just keep receiving it as it begins to melt away. So, just an insight. Ekaterina says, it seems that it seems all of my relationships are conflictive, one way or another. Is it karma? Well, in a word, yes. If it's properly understood, this entire world is a manifestation of karma. I mean, we talk about cause and effect, sowing and reaping. I mean, the laws of manifestation, whether we're looking at the Bible or we're looking at The Secret or a metaphysical course, we are in a world of cause and effect. So and the simplest way to talk about the law of karma is whatever a person sows, they will reap many times over. So if we sow seeds of judgment, then we reap judgment upon ourselves. When we sow seeds of love, love flows back to us from all around. It works for the positive or the negative. So in a single word, in India, one of the names for earth is Karma Bhumi, which means world of karma. Yes. So, but that said, if the outer world is a reflection of the inner world, and we're experiencing all of our relations being filled with conflict, in some way, those relationships are mirroring the conflict that remains within us. And so we need to go through the process of facing and healing our own inner conflicts. As that happens, you'll see how interesting it is, how it's like magic. As we see that same grace that's at work in us, we'll see it working in the relationships around us. Either healing the relationship or releasing you from damaging ones and bringing new relationships into your life that are supportive and rooted in peace and harmony.
Well, it takes two to be in conflict. So if you're in a space where you're not in conflict anymore, then you can respond to the people with compassion and love and understanding, because you know what conflict is like inside of yourself. So that's kind of the little dangling of the carrot to get to that point, because until we get to that point, like Michael said, we're just going to keep drawing conflict and relationships to us all the time. And it's just the world trying to say, hey, here's a mirror, look up, look and see what's actually going on inside of you. But as that starts to heal, that's where our hearts can flower and we can be in unconditional love and compassion with the person that is in conflict. And if there's not two to conflict, there's just open hand and the other one knocking with conflict, there's nothing to hit against. It's just, it can become open hands on both sides.
Nice. Yeah. So, one of the questions that the mind comes up with along the way is, why does this keep happening? We just addressed it on one level, but there's a more constructive purpose than just reflecting your junk to you. And that is that our experiences in the outer world that are mirroring our inner condition are triggering charges in us. So, there it is again. There's this pattern of conflict that I've been seeing it, and it's still going on. And then you feel triggered and certain emotions come up in you. Conflict comes up in you. So a lot of the experiences, outer experiences that we have in life, especially the repetitive ones that trigger us, are actually a gift from the divine to help us to trigger and release the suppressed emotional charges and programming, karma, that we carry. And a lot of it's in the unconscious, which is why it's not so easy to just sit there and go, okay, I'm going to face my conflict and I'm going to declare healing. Problem is, a lot of that stuff is so deeply buried because what we don't want to experience because it's unpleasant, we tend to stuff it into the unconscious mind. And there it is, controlling us without us even being conscious. Every time one of those conflicting relationships comes along and triggers us, it's nudging some of that stuff loose that's buried in the unconscious, and it's coming up. So that's an opportunity to not resist it. Anything you resist will cause psychological suffering for you. When you stop resisting it, it can emerge into consciousness. You can see it, and then it can discharge and let you go. All karma wants us to do, karma's like a guru. Karma wants us to see and to experience the pain that we have inflicted on others, which isn't easy to do. We don't want to admit, we don't want to look at it. We sure don't want to feel the darker karma that we have created over lifetimes, or our ancestors, going way back. And so karma can seem kind of harsh because all this stuff is happening like to trigger me and to force me to face my pain, And all karma wants you to do is to see the seeds that you've been sowing that are bringing you a crop you don't want. See what it is that we've been dumping on people and feel it. This is where empathy comes in and compassion. When we feel the suffering that our own lack of enlightenment and our immaturity has inflicted on another, once we see it and we feel it, we can never be that insensitive again because now it's conscious and we feel what we've inflicted, and then karma says you're free. So while karma is tough, in a way, karma could be the sweetest of gurus because she just wants us to become sensitive. That's it. Feel the harm you've inflicted. We can't fix it. We can't fix it all. That's where we need grace, and that's where the divine will help us.
Somebody wrote in a question earlier, I'm paraphrasing it because I don't remember the exact words, but the basic gist of it was that do you think that if people learned, do you think that all wars on earth could end if everybody learned how to work with or have their emotions, to express their feelings? And I've been contemplating this a lot lately. We've been getting so many, the last 3 weeks have been crazy for prayer requests of people really needing help with things. And I look around and I look at different people in different levels of consciousness and going through their lives and the drama that gets created around it, or not addressing drama and just kind of fight or flight. And I think that was right on. So many people, we didn't come with owner's manuals, and I wish we did, but we didn't. And we're all just bumbling through this beautiful blue planet the best way that we can. And most of how we learned how to interact with people or to have relationships has all been based on what our parents exposed us to and what charges and programs we carry over from them, which was carried over from them, which was carried over from them, and our ancestors back on. And so when you get to the point where multi-generational families don't know how to communicate or deal with their emotions, we've just got generations of people that are just acting out and reacting and lashing out. So it's a really good point that the more that we are aware, like you, Yekaterina, that your relationships are all in conflict. The first part is to be aware of that, and then we can do something with it, which is really good, because most people just go through their lives unconscious and just keep acting the same way, expecting a different result.
So you were saying wars could end if?
if people learned how to, I can't remember how you put it, but if people learned how to express their emotions, or I don't remember the exact wording of it, but something like that.
If everybody becomes awakened and God realized, end of wars.
Right. But even if we
let me read what John wrote.
Okay.
I've been very disappointed and disheartened that a few individuals can cause so much death and misery that it appears that these individuals will always exist. So what is the answer? They clearly have no issue with eliminating tens of thousands. And then John just added, they have to want to. Well, it would be good if they wanted to. Sometimes change is thrust on us even if we don't want it. I mean, you know, I don't think Eckhart Tolle wanted to be enlightened. He just wanted out. He just wanted to end it all, you know, and he ended up getting enlightened. Gee. But it wasn't an answer to a passionate desire. And yes, it does seem that there are some souls on this planet that if they even have a soul, have very dark intentions. It's almost as if there are 8 billion of us on this planet, and we're all wearing human bodies, but some of the beings that inhabit these bodies are very different. Some of us are light beings that are here for a specific purpose, to help. Other people are here for the specific purpose of working out their karma and getting free. Other people, and it used to puzzle me. I didn't understand why. Just want to use their lifetime for the maximum pleasure and personal experience. Wow, I've got a body. Here I am. Let's go, you know. And there are others that seem to have more sinister intentions behind them. So the answer, though, is I don't believe these individuals, well, they will always exist, but no one will exist the same as we are now 10 minutes from now. We're constantly changing. And I do see a process that humanity is working through where there will not always be people like that.
Right.
Right now, unfortunately, yes, it's very disheartening and disappointing that we humans can still create such damaging violence, you know, and there are wars, but in our relationships, sometimes the way that we get mad at one another, the way that we deal with our feelings and our egos, and the only solution to that is a shift in the collective consciousness of humanity. In the meantime, there have been a lot of very powerful beings working for peace for a very long time. And it used to be that if you stood for peace and you stood up tall, you might become a martyr very easily. It depends on what part of the world and what time in history and what the issues are. And unfortunately, we're seeing a time now where maybe that's true too. I think there are a lot of people caught in the middle of these struggles, whether we're talking about Africa or Ukraine or Syria or any number of other places, because there's human violence acting out in many, many places. And some of it's more atrocious than others. But in those places, there are people, I mean, some cynical religious person will say no one's innocent, you know, but no, there are innocent people caught in the middle of these things, and I don't understand. And that's why I'm saying, if you were in a cave in Tibet, John, and you knew nothing about this stuff that's broken your heart and upset you so much, and I get it, you would still feel agitated, something's wrong. You would feel like, you know how you feel sometimes when a member of your family or someone really close to you is going through something you don't know, but you feel something's wrong. Like a parent will often know that their child is going through something before they find out what it is. You'd feel it. We're all feeling it. And what we're hoping is, because I've never seen such a global surge, a voice of people saying, no, no more killing, no more war, no more aggression, no more of that. We're done with the old earth.
Right.
In its way, which is why each week I introduce that we're shifting from a world of competition, conflict, and violence to the new earth of cooperation, harmony, and peace.
I know for me personally, the last few years has deepened my resolve to pray more, to help more, to be a blessing more, to respond more, and to hold space more. And we were always doing it, but now it is just so much more conscious and so much more present and so much more powerful, because I'm setting intentions and prayers all day long. And I've deepened my resolve in this because it's such an important thing to do and such an important time to do it in. And what's funny is it's always been an important time to do that. But it's like as we get pushed in the pressure cooker and the heat starts to go up, it's even more important to reaffirm our resolve to be a blessing, to help, because the more people that we reach from that state of consciousness, from that peace, and peace that passes all understanding, and unconditional love and compassion, the more that we are centered in that, the more it's going to have a ripple effect to show other people that that's possible. Because right now things seem impossible and the world just seems crazy, but I know that there are so many of us doing this that it will make a difference. Sorry if I sound preachy.
I grew up, during the Vietnam War, and that was a time when there was a lot of conflict over that. War is nothing but conflict, but there was a voice, and it was coming a lot through the youth, saying, "Peace. Stop. No more war. Stop it." And that caused a lot of conflict because of the way that things were done, and unfortunately many of our servicemen and women were not appreciated for the sacrifices they made, and they didn't have a choice or getting drafted. But the authorities did hear the voice of the people saying, "Stop this. We don't want war." And unfortunately, it took an awful lot of our young people coming home in boxes. And finally, this country just went, we're done with this. Humanity is still very immature, and so make your voice heard for peace, pray for peace, the most important thing is that you find peace.
And then be the peace.
You've got to have peace within yourself. We can't be out like demonstrating and angry because there isn't peace. But we can be angry about it, but we need to be coming from a place of inner peace, where we're okay with ourselves and okay with our place in the world, and we accept the here and now. And that kind of peace, Scripture says, passes understanding. In other words, it makes no sense. Why should we have peace inside when the world is trembling? And yet, those of us who have an authentic connection to presence do have direct access to a peace that is unconditional, that passes all understanding, is always there. It's always been there, always will be there. It's what we've come from, and it's where we're going to. So, Morey writes, I investigated for several years a proposal to heal the collective trauma product of the culture of violence through public policies of various kinds, but I have not found receptivity. From justice, education, and mental health systems. When I'm here with you both, I feel very close to the divine. Well, we feel very close to the divine when we're here with you, Morey. Yes, I mean, all those things are important. The idea of implementing various public policies and programs that can address the issues. I mean, a number of years ago, I went through federal training for domestic violence intervention. Not just for intervention, I was trained as a trainer of domestic violence interventionists. And fascinating. But the government and law enforcement on a federal level realized years ago that the culture of violence we have in the United States is passed, it's transmitted in the home. It's kids growing up in the home being exposed to violence and abuse and witnessing violence and abuse. It becomes part of them early in life. I mean, you study developmental psychology. Most of our programming for misery is well in place by the time we're 6, 7 years old. And the problem, there's a lot of problems with that, but that trauma happened to us, and those damaging experiences that we couldn't process happened to us at a pre-rational age. We had no rational mechanism to understand it. And
pure emotion.
Pure emotion that we couldn't deal with, and so it got buried. And most of the work that we're doing, even in the spiritual work of unloading the unconscious of its trauma and its programming and its charges, most of the stuff has been there since the first 6 years of our lives. And so the reason I'm saying this, yes, it's transgenerational. The government of the United States, even law enforcement and the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center knew this and taught us all kinds of tools and insights to understand what's going on in these families. And yet, here we still are.
Right.
I mean, it's one of the most dangerous activities that a law enforcement officer can engage in is domestic violence intervention. Unless it's changed recently, that was the #1 cause of injury and death to law enforcement officers. Because families can be crazy, you know? So, but back to what I really wanted to get at, while these programs are wonderful, I mean, I'm glad there's a United Nations, I think, you know, so that we can talk and try to have dialogues for peace and get along together. And it's wonderful that the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, FLETC, was beginning to really educate the leaders about the transgenerational violence and how to get a foothold in there and stop it. Without punishing people, you know, we want to help people. And I'm not law enforcement, but I was an active bishop at the time, and I was invited as one of two civilians to go through this amazing training program. I learned a lot, but I learned that programs can't do it until people become more mature and people become more awakened. I mean, we've been trying to reform the human race in all kinds of beautiful attempts over countless thousands of years. Philosophical movements, religious movements, political movements, all kinds of movements and isms and techniques to try to help people break out of this pattern of human self-destructiveness. And here we are. Because those things can't change humanity. Programs, political programs, things from the outside can't change us. We have to transform from the inside out through the flowering of the heart.
I've gotten to the point now where I'm on like these petition websites and, you know, activism, or I've gotten to the point where when I get an email that says fight in it, I can't back it or support it. I think that we need to say no to just even rhetoric that entices fear entices aggression, violence. All of that is happening on all sides of the fence. And I've gotten to a point where I've gotten really, really sensitive to responding to anything that is fear-based or trying to pull my mind into being fearful and out of that peaceful spot of knowing that everything is covered, everything is good. And I'm not putting my head in the sand, but I'm just saying, to even for me, it's been beautiful to even get to the point where I can't tolerate fear-based news. I can't tolerate fear-based petitions or anything like that, activism. And I feel really comfortable with that because it's just taking it one step deeper and really.
But we're not telling people what they should or shouldn't do as activists.
Oh no, I'm not.
I know you.
Yeah.
She wasn't.
No, I just choose not to read the email, or if I start to read it and I feel that it's aggressive or combative. Like I said earlier, it takes two to combat. And if one person says, I don't want to play that game anymore, then they start getting in touch with other people that say that. And we come into agreement. And the more of us that come into the agreement that we want open hands, not closed fists, I think that it will make a difference. I think it is already making a difference.
I use some of those words you don't like. Like I speak of combating apathy. I mean, there's certain things that we have to confront and resist. And basically, I don't like the idea of resistance because it causes suffering. But there are certain things we should resist, like destroying the world.
But maybe we could shift from a different word, from combat to having compassion for apathy.
I get it. Maybe it's just because I'm a guy and I'm a trained martial artist. But there's certain, and none of that is to cause harm. But sometimes to stop harm, we have to stand up to it.
We can stand up in peace, not combat.
Look, there was this bully guy in high school. And he wore a black Stetson and went everywhere in high school with a bullwhip, and they let him do it. And he was from the great state where people know how to use bullwhips. And he was a bully, and he just hated me. And this was back in the 1960s. He was definitely a cowboy redneck. And I was definitely a peace and love, flower child. And he kept slamming into me and picking on me and making my life miserable. And I didn't plan any of this. I terrified myself, but he slammed me up against a brick wall, and he took his whip, and I finally stood up to the guy. I said, if you ever touch me again, you're going to have to take me. And he went, wow, Milner, I thought you were a cream puff. I'm impressed. And he left me alone from that moment forward. But this was the kind of energy that I had to stand up to.
Stand up is different than combat. I mean, really, if you think about it, standing up with integrity.
Look, I had to fight the impulse to run and do nothing.
Right.
I fought. So anyway, we don't always agree on the use of words, but it's an interesting discussion.
Well,
I definitely get what Suzanne's saying. So, but let me keep reading. We have a friend from Australia, Colleen, and she says, I have COVID, so waiting for the cough to disappear prior to leaving the house. Blessing would be appreciated, Michael. You definitely. We definitely will be sending blessing for that. Joanne says, pushing the pendulum keeps everything going. Push. Don't use the word push.
But sometimes
there's
just perpetual motion, like those little balls that just keep going.
Yeah, okay.
That's the God glue.
Okay. I mean, I even used to have this argument in India with the monks, because they just say, accept everything without resistance. And I'd say, so what if you get news, that there's a pedophile on the campus over here messing with the kids? But we accept them unconditionally. I say, I resist them. I would stop them. as gently as possible. But anyway, so John says, so you're saying when the Russian people, well, okay, there goes the word. See, I have dear friends that are Russian people that don't like war, and are, so, okay. But when you're saying when these people have had enough, that this insanity with thousands of caskets coming home, so when they've paid a high enough price, I'm not saying that because it's never, let me keep, there's never been enough so far. And we can look back to World War II, World War I, the ancient conflicts, and know all of us, whatever country we're talking about, have had so many bodies. I mean, and it hasn't stopped the human appetite for war and violence. Clearly, awakening is needed.
The flowering of the heart.
That's just, yes.
The flowering of the heart, because until we have compassion for ourselves, we're not going to have compassion for others. And that allows us to do things that hurt others because we're hurting inside. So when bodies are coming home from these conflicts, what it does to the unawakened, to people who are at a more immature level of consciousness, is they become angrier and angrier and more hateful. And more conflict. And these conflicts go on for multi-generations. They're sometimes referred to as blood feuds, like the ones we've seen in recent years in Africa, but in the Middle East. I mean, that enmity goes back to Abraham and Isaac and Ishmael. Abraham had two sons. One of them got the short end of the stick. He got put out in the wilderness with his mama Hagar. The other son got treated like a divine prince with his mother Sarah. And the enmity that arose between Ishmael, the patriarch of the Arab peoples, and Isaac, the patriarch of the Hebrew peoples, has gone on for generations. And while people could cite reasons why the animosities are perpetuated, it's rooted in something that happened thousands of years ago. And it becomes part of the ancestral karma that is just, it's like the transgenerational domestic violence thing, only on a much bigger scale. It's going to take a lot more than people just getting beat up enough that they go, okay, no more war. This is all I can take. It's going to take enlightenment, and John knows that. And I know you're not putting all Russians in a box. That's good, because Tay Bill says, from sports to commerce, competition is instinctive, fun, and good for us. Is this consistent with the flowering of the heart? I'm not sure it's good for us. I don't think it's good for us.
We teach our children to be competitive from the time they're knee-high to a grasshopper. We praise them for that kind of conduct on the playground, in school, in academics, in business, and on the battlefield. It's the idea that I should try to conquer you and do better than you and win over you. That's exactly what's wrong with humanity. And when the ego dissolves, that's impossible to do. Who am I beating?
Right.
So, no,
competition feeds the ego.
Somebody asked, Sri Bhagwan in India years ago, isn't the ego sort of useful for some things? I mean, how would you function in business or in sports or in any normal human activity? You need to have a healthy, balanced ego. And his response was, there's no such a thing. The ego is always destructive, always. And it is not required actually to function in business or in academics or in where we're all trying to hold each other up. And it's like the team, but it's not the team playing against anyone else. It's team humanity, working for the healing of humanity in the world.
When my daughter was younger, we were teaching all of this stuff, and we would play games together, like Rummy Cube or Gin Rummy or Scrabble or whatever. We'd be playing games together, and it was just her and I, and we would we would play, and then if somebody got stuck with something, and she wasn't, super young, this is like 7, 8, 10, 12, when one of us would get stuck, the other one would help. And it wasn't about winning, it was about spending time together and talking and cooperation. And if I had a tile that she needed, I would put it down knowing that she could use it for something else. So we learned a different way of playing, and she's just turning 21 this month, and she's very balanced. She's very driven. She's very organized. She's very put together for her age, but for any age. But she learned a different way of playing games, which included everybody winning, everybody feeling good, and I'm not saying go give everybody a trophy just because they joined the team, but if we started teaching our children how to play games that instead of bettering the other team or the other person, and we started to play games that are team building, that do talk about cooperation, that not about just our own team, but about the whole bigger field. I know.
Okay.
So there's a different ways to play that's healthier, that brings unity instead of division. And we've gone so far over the line. The only thing that competition feeds is our egos, and our ego is our mind, which wants conflict and drama and chaos, and it has nothing to do with peace. And as far as how business goes, I find that I make decisions so much better when I'm coming from my heart instead of my ego and my mind, because that only wants what's best for me. But when I'm coming from my heart, the answers come that would benefit the greater good instead of just my own personal wants and desires.
So, given how late it is, what shall we do? We've promised to give blessings to,
Right.
so we're going to do that. So we're going to be going a little bit over tonight, but I mean, this is an important subject.
It is.
And I remember John just said, there's a thing I heard as a child, be a good sport. There was a famous sportscaster in Chicago when I was growing up, and in the late 50s. And I can't remember his name right now. If I did, a couple of you might be old enough to even know who he was. But he was a friend of my dad's, and he was famous. His thing that he always said on the evening sports news, remember, kids, whether you win or lose, be a good sport. So yeah, it is possible to play a competitive game and be doing it for fun. It certainly is. And the less ego we have, the more fun it's going to be, I think. But, yep, okay, I think it's definitely, yep. Okay. Well, Morey agrees. No combativeness.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I want to combat over that. No kidding. No, but all right then. So, would you close your eyes and just touch in to your spiritual heart, the center of your being, where the divine presence dwells within you, and just invoke the presence. We're going to get right to it. Many of you have come tonight with a need for grace, for healing, for release in your soul from frustration, fear, anger, all of the various charges that play through our souls. Perhaps ways of thinking that are no longer serving us. The divine presence will help to heal your physical bodies and to heal your souls, as well as to enlighten and transform your spirit. So open yourself to just receive. the flowering heart blessing, the blessing of the divine. The divine presence is all-powerful and all-knowing, knows exactly what you need. So you don't even need to explain it. Just begin to receive and drink in the blessing. That you need. You could lift up your hands with your eyes still closed, your palms open, facing forward, and just invite the presence to pour the blessing through you to all the others. Now when you're ready, you could open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. Just keep looking at least one of our eyes as we dive into the light meditation. Suzanne and I become filled with oceans of grace that pour through every fiber of our being, oceans of grace and light and love, especially through our eyes, the doorways of the soul. As you just keep looking, there's nothing to do but keep looking. That light will stream through our eyes, in through your eyes, into your heart, to cause the divine light and love within you to blaze and radiate and bring transformation to you. settles within you. Now keep meditating as long as it feels nice to you. Also, you could find a place nearby to lie in Savasana. That's to lie on your back with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with the palms opened, turned upward, and just let yourself dissolve in gratitude in the presence. We love you very much.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Until we see you again, know that the divine in us acknowledges and beholds the divine within you, and we bow